Okay, good morning once again. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to according to whatever time you will be viewing this. And to continue our lesson in J2, we have our ULOB, which is to differentiate diverse communication strategies in transmitting and absorbing information through stimulating and meaningful manner. So, this section presents the essential terms, which are the following. Okay, so the definitions and natures of communication strategies. So this includes communication strategies refer to the techniques of conveying a message. Communication strategies pertain to the methods which smoothen the sending and receiving of the message. It also allows free flow of the strategies allow free flow of information where better understanding happens. Communication strategies also are employed to assist the speaker in sending his messages and help the receivers process the information quickly. So it completes the communication process easier and faster. Communication strategies also resemble a fact-filled and fun-laced presentation of data. Okay, so number 2, when you talk about visual aids, these are learning devices that assist in clarifying, establishing, correlating, coordinating, interpreting, and appreciating concepts. So these may include illustrations, pictures, charts, graphs, film clips that may be utilized. So that's a very broad term. Then we have the PowerPoint presentation, which is a technological device that has been widely used to relay messages through slides, bullets, tables, images, illustrations, links, and other videos. Then we have the web-based applications, which comprise any program which is contrived through a network connection using HTTP. So one may access light applications such as flash games, online calculators, calendars, and others through this connection. Okay, so what are the essential knowledge that we need to learn from this? So first, with audiovisuals. So there's a question here. What do you prefer more in learning? Is it through in-person teaching? Or are you into seeing text, images, and videos? So what do these instructional methods appeal to you? So learners may differ in learning styles due to individual preferences. And you have to find that out personally in yourself to whatever strategy works for you. So everybody has choices on how to take the process and impart information. So some may likely grasp info when presented orally. Whereas others may learn better when the information is presented through images. So you have to determine either you are more of an audio person or a video person, visual or oral. Okay, next, activating audio and visual senses. So audiovisual aids are considered instructional materials that help learners to understand the topic easily. Through hearing, we call it audio, and seeing or visual. So knowledge is made clear with the help of these senses. Audio aids are devices that can be heard only. Okay, so because the rule here is the more memorable your experience is, the more chances of recalling that kind of experience. So the more senses involved, the better it is. So much like in a political campaign, we have our upcoming elections, national elections nowadays, and in a political campaign, politicians prefer to really go to the localities of their voters so that they can experience, giving them an experience, the voters, of knowing them personally. So for example, they can hear them, they can see them personally. If they can shake the hand of the person, then if they can hug and smell the scent of the person, or if they were treated to a memorable meal, then a lot of those senses are involved. So that makes the experience really memorable. So, and most politicians would really go into this option so that they will be remembered when the election day comes. It's a bit costly, but for them, they consider it as something that's really worth it. Okay, so the same way with audiovisual materials. The more senses you involve your audience into that experience, the better the learning and the recall will be. Okay, so meanwhile, while visual aids are materials that help envision the meaning. So with these concepts, audiovisual aids form a learning environment. Let me make it very clear. Okay, a learning environment as meaningful as possible through hearing and seeing. So therefore, any material which can be utilized to create learning encounters more realistic and engaging can be considered audiovisual material. Okay, so as long as it makes it more engaging, so that is considered audiovisual material. Similarly, like audiovisual aids are learning devices that assist in clarifying, establishing, correlating, coordinating, interpreting, and appreciating concepts. So in doing so, these illustrations, pictures, charts, graphs, and film clips could be utilized. So for a few examples of these audiovisual aids are PowerPoint presentations, like web-based applications. It also includes blogging or vlogging and other multi-modal text like an advertising poster. So eventually, these learning materials enable the learner to absorb information in a more interesting, inspirational, and meaningful way. Okay, so how does PowerPoint presentation work? So most individuals are familiar with PowerPoint presentations, like be it in education or career. And this technological device has been widely used to relay messages through slides, bullets, tables, images, illustrations, or even just links and some videos. Through these learning sessions, board level presentations, business meetings, or any occurrence may transform into fact-filled and even fun-laced encounters. So considering the advantages which PowerPoint offers, people in the academe, in business, or in the industry are encouraged to delve into the utilization of this technological advancement. So through this cost-effective and captivating presentations, they pave the way for engaging content for learners, customers, and even investors alike. So it's just on the click of a finger. So sometimes it's a bit hard to prepare this. It takes time, but when it's done, it's worth it. It can be reused for how many times, and it becomes cost effective. I remember when PowerPoint was not yet around, the reports in classes are always made up of cartulinas or what they call this, illustration boards, and a lot of cutouts and some pictures from magazines and from newspapers. You have to paste them all together, and when you present, you have to use like slides, literal slides. I mean, and other cardboards. You can use flashcards while presenting, and you have to put double-sided tapes at the back so that you can put it on the board while you present. It's quite difficult. The preparation, sometimes it would take them 3 days just to prepare for one presentation. Whereas with today's efforts, you can just search millions of images in Google, and the data that you need, the dictionary is already in the computer. So you can make a very good PowerPoint presentation in practically just minutes or hours if it's a very long presentation, but still way better compared to days in the previous generation. Okay, so it's a must for us to really learn about how to use this. Okay, time and venue. So the time and venue of the presentation is taken into consideration when you present. So these concerns also include the lighting, which will positively or negatively affect the presentation. Whenever in an open area, an LCD or LED projector is not appropriate. So in that case, a chart or other visual aids may do. So because projected LED projectors need little darkness for it to be more visible. So if it is hit by a light, for example, so the presentation slides will become a bit vague. So that's one consideration. Okay, then another one is, okay, so another consideration is the audience. So the demographic profile of the audience is also a factor to consider in this case. This may comprise the number of the participants. Why is it important? Because sometimes it determines the intimacy between you and the audience. If it is a large audience, then it's public speaking. But if it's just 2 or 3 people, then it just becomes like a group meeting. So that changes the level of language that sometimes you will use. Okay, what else? The profile of the audience. So because sometimes when you fail to consider these things, you are making or preparing PowerPoint presentations that are full of technicalities or technical terms or specific or jargons, we call it. So this makes the presentation a bit harder to understand compared to when you use layman's terms of the same definitions. Okay, so what else? The age, so that the education would come into play, or sometimes the norms and the culture, even the gender. So there are some sensitivities that involve gender, and there are also other do's and don'ts like the religion even. So that means you cannot use a joke that involves a person's particular religion, because you'll never know that if somebody is involved or a member of that organization or sympathizes with that group. Okay, so you have to consider those things. Okay, likewise, using the crowd's common language suggests an advantage to gain attention. So know the crowd, know the audience, know the interests. So I remember there was this group of accounting teachers who attended an accounting seminar. They were excited going there, but only to find out that the topics that were discussed were very basic for them. So they never learned something new out of the seminar, and they went home disappointed. So that's one failure that the organizers have taken into account. They never expected probably that or probably they were expecting accounting students to just attend, but they were not expecting faculty members that teaches accounting subjects be attending. So we could have prepared something novel or fresh, so for them to bring home. Number 3, the preferences. So the listeners' likes and dislikes too must be looked into. Aside from that, it must be noted that saying anything offensive to the listeners must be avoided. As to the young audience, they may prefer colorful and cartoon-like materials, unlike adult listeners. So that's why you have to consider this. The audience, the preferences actually goes well with understanding the audience already. So if they are, yeah, if they are made up of young people, then you can use something bright, colorful, something they can relate to in the modern world, like a background music or images that refer to their K-pop idols or stuff. Okay, then the purpose of the presentation must be considered. Okay, the audience and the purpose, that's the prime consideration for preparing a presentation. So the presentation must be guided by a clear purpose. So the planning and preparation should be aligned with this purpose in the presentation's audience, location, and time. So in doing so, drafting is the first step to warrant appropriating sequence of ideas. So after drafting, through sketching the framework, one can start working on the PowerPoint presentation. So determine the purpose and the audience first, because that gives direction on your PowerPoint presentation. So what is the purpose? For example, if your purpose is to sell something, then you have to make it a point that everything leads to that. Everything focuses on the features, the benefits, and the attributes. Fab, features, attributes, benefits of a product. So that is if you are selling. But if you want to convince somebody about deciding on something, to vote for somebody, then that takes a different direction. Okay, moving on. What happened? It's loading. Getting a lot slower. Ends time. First, graphics, videos, graphs. There are different ways of doing that. You can use the background picture, some cartoon images there, or specific picture there that's related. Consider the appropriateness of those images as well. I remember there was somebody who reported in my class with the sound effects. Somehow class distracted instead of learning. It distracts people's concentration. Contrast, like you have to contrast your text with the background. Okay, so you cannot use a yellow text in a red background or something. So that's a no-no. So they have to be first. Okay, it must be ensured that these insertions are relevant and interesting, which gets the listener's attention. Those are not that relevant with your presentation, then don't use it. Okay, as I have said, number 6, you have to consider the text. Also, the size and the font of the text must be visible enough that even the last person occupying the venue can see. So depending on the readable. They say the general rule is just 5 by 5. That's like 5 words per line, and only 5 lines per slide. Okay, remember that. Okay, so when you cannot just copy and paste one paragraph, for example, and paste it in one slide. So you have to consider that things. Okay, so take a picture with me on this. Let me see. Ooh, take a screenshot of me doing this. Okay, that for your on this video. Okay, number 7. The design of the PowerPoint presentation must help the viewers understand important concepts. Bullets must be limited to 5 to 5 principles, so it's easier to remember. So there must be 5 lines per frame, 5 words per line, 5 frames of text. So in that case, crowded or heavy slides should be avoided. You can probably just use them on your notes for you to on your presentation, but not don't put them on your slides. Visual aid for the audience and not for you as the presenter. Presentation to show the slides that you are in at the same time the notes that you have beside is not shown on the audience, but you can see it for yourself. So you can use that. What else? So that phrases in bullet points in each state you have to rehearse. So it is advised to ensure familiarity with the presentation details, and consequently the coordination of the presentation and equipment works alongside. You can even use the timing oral presentation. Then likewise, rehearsal glitches may be detected early. Let's say you forgot a slide, or you think you can add something, misspelled words or clerical errors, even just make a big difference in the meaning of the sentences. So it's best to go over and rehearse. Okay, then thus giving them the idea of whether to retain or reconfigure some part. Okay, number 10, scrutiny. So it is recommended to check the equipment and venue before the presentations or presentation. So addressing these concerns make the presentation smooth for the presenter, and there are even presentations sometimes that and check the equipment. There are presentations that fail because working projectors and you prepared a PowerPoint presentation. So I remember when I conducted a neutral accent training, opportunity to, but I failed to ask there. So how do I use my flash drive here? Well, one good thing in one of the classroom. So that's I did it from there. One good thing they have this. I use the chalk in the blackboard all throughout. Access and effective relay of information are some of the advantages that PowerPoint offers, because the presentation can divert the speaker's attention towards this. One of the activities I did is for them to in my literature class, using a PowerPoint presentation, some images, and they have to make some comic dialogues out. So what happened to this? Why is it there? The pose behind or step forwards are increasing nowadays, which are deemed useful in terms of communication strategies. So a web-based application, also known as a web app, refers to any program with HTTP. Okay, it may be client-based. Some confuse terms such as web-based, internet-based, and cloud-based with the user via HTTP. As a clarification, these technological tools, calendars, and others, spreadsheets applications are also the coverage of web browser. Yet these, where was it? Parts of the program, desktop computers, and you can download any application under the sun. But not everything is an extra dollars to get the necessary. What's going on? Nice, not crazy. Okay, moving on. Okay, they are connected to a user's desktop. So then the processing is done over the internet on an external server. So specifically, what can web-based applications do? So well, these web-based applications are a valuable tool in many fields such as education, business industry, and other organizations, because these are capable of assisting in different forms. So this may include tracking performance records, so managing passenger or cargo transportation, working with payroll or salaries, monitoring financial procedures, controlling employees' workflow, allowing booking accommodations, online processing of payments, and so on. So there are so many applications or practical ways of using the technology. So these complex tasks can be accomplished through programming languages and multiple technologies via a server. So likewise, a web-based application will run on client computers browser, no matter what operating system is installed. So this makes web-based apps a universal cross-platform solution available today. So in a nutshell, web-based applications are unique and updated, so which can provide any institution or organization with various multifunctional online tools capable of solving complexities. So astoundingly, we may not be aware that the majority of us are using or patronizing web-based applications in our daily lives. So they're supposed to be just tools, not masters, right? So that means we have to use them accordingly. We don't use them to scam people or to become lazy or other stuff. So we learn this so that we can use its proper applications in solving daily problems that we have. Okay, so that's it for today, and I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.